Fate Samurai Remnant is Koei Tecmos newest release onto the Nintendo Switch, but the game is also available on PlayStation consoles and the PC. For the Fate Stay Night faithful, this game picks up right in the middle of the Edo period, but for those who are new to the franchise as a whole, you don't need to feel too concerned since this game does have a pretty good crash course into the franchise timeline before setting you loose into your own story. The story itself revolves around Miyamoto Iori, a warrior who just happens to be a middling swordsman at best until he's thrusted upon the Holy Grail War, which works as an overarching theme connecting not just the events of this game, but also Fate Stay Night's franchise as a whole. This war brings together masters and servants into an all-out battle royale type skirmish. Servants aren't slaves by any means, they're more like spiritual companions from either bygone era or an alternative timeline, and they are sprinkled throughout the story to recall cameo characters from many of the franchise's most popular characters. As Iori advances throughout the Holy Grail Wars, his connections with Saver, his first servant, becomes quite strong indeed. This is why I think newcomers to the franchise will be easily welcome into the fold, because the game does a fantastic job not just expanding on some of the insane story arc aspects, but also making it easily digestible and understanding at every turn. It takes so many of the visual novel aspects and anime tropes and twists them, making each one of the characters stand out uniquely and grow as you get to know them through your journey. This of course means that there are some downtime and plenty of exposition and conversations taking place that could take up to 20 to 30 minutes on separate cutscenes as part of the entire conversation. But knowing that going in as an anime fan is not much of a problem. The other major part of the gameplay revolves around exploration and combat, as you explore some semi-open areas to find basically treasures scattered around and different goodies. You'll easily find yourself in the middle of an encounter. Combat for the most part is relatively straightforward as well. In a somewhat Musou type fashion, you can engage a multitude of enemies, but keep in mind that you're not controlling an army of any kind like in a typical Musou. You're controlling one character at a time, often enough, and just them alone, as you mow down crowds of fodder enemies with your typical combo building attacks. You can also have a parry, a dodge, and a jump for your typical avoidance attacks, while skills and abilities can be equipped and slotted as you slowly build up your arsenal for future and ever more grueling encounters. Some of those grueling encounters are actual boss fights, specifically who stand out in this game, not only because the bosses are tougher than most enemies of course, but also the characters that you've known and loved for the franchise as a whole make an appearance as a boss fight. They provide a real sense of danger and a really interesting and minor twist as smaller mechanics are tossed in, sprinkled throughout some of the boss encounters as well. Sadly, performance is something that is a bit more touch and go here, and I believe Koei was fully aware of this, which is why code specifically for the Nintendo Switch came in relatively late. Simply put, the game is running at 30 FPS on the Nintendo Switch and not 60 like in other consoles, whether it is PlayStation or PC. However, due to the double buffer VSync being enabled at all time, once you get into a situation where the frames drop below 30 for a couple of seconds or so, they'll tank all the way down to 20 to maintain a good input latency, and they stay there. This approach works whenever you're walking around the town or even during some dialogue scenarios, but in combat it feels very spotty and very jarring at times, and you'll certainly see it. Probably is fine for most, but certainly something that should be ironed out with patches if Koei Tecmo decides to support the game going forward. I've had a blast playing this game, probably more than any of the previous Fate Night Stay traditional Musous that we saw back in the years. The combat is faster and much more action based. Enemies aren't just set there to stand around and get dunked on, but actually fight back. The bosses put up a good fight and the story keeps things moving along, feeling unique in its very own way. However, the performance in some degree here is a bit touch and go and is a little bit of a miss at the end of the day, and I truly hope that Koei Tecmo can do some patching to get it to a more presentable state. Nintendo Sphere gives Fate Samurai Remnant on the Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. If you're brand new to my channel though, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya!